Johnny boy, it's the Groove Junction, everyone. We are back for another edition, episode 41. Episode 41 of the Groove Junction, and here we are. My name's DJ Matty F, and I am joined alongside, as always, the main man himself, Mr. DJ John Colley.
Hello.
How are you, John?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, really good. How are you?
I'm good. I am loving life right now.
I like the way you're wearing your Groove Junction t-shirt tonight. I like that.
Well, I've got my jacket on. Got me
Love that.
my little soft jacket on, mate. It's a
What?
little bit nippy. So,
What? Nippy?
yeah, a little bit nippy. But guess what? Next week, I'm heading to the sun. Yes, I'm heading to Spain next week. So we need to think about recording, whether I'm going to record in Spain.
We can record, but I think what's more important, I think we should have a little wager going on here, because let's be honest, the last couple of holidays that you've had,
It's been raining.
the weather has not been favourable for you.
No.
You know,
No, it hasn't.
so where are you going?
Spain,
Spain. Yeah, I'm
Might
going to
be
go with. How long are you going for? How many days roughly?
just 6.
6 days. I'm going to go 3. I'm going to go safe. 3 of the 6 it's going to rain. Just saying.
Appreciate that. I don't even know why this has happened all of a
I
sudden.
don't know,
Anyway,
mate. Well, it's because you're always going away.
we're going down a cul-de-sac that I don't want to go down towards. Anyway, welcome along. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for dropping in on another episode of the Groove Junction. And as always, we're going to fly straight into the rundown, which is sponsored by Pro Mobile Magazine.
The Groove Junction Rundown is sponsored by Pro Mobile Magazine, the magazine that's got it all. It's a game changer. They don't just do surface-level reviews, they dive deep with real practical insights. And the interviews? They feature some heavy hitters sharing seriously valuable advice. But it's not just about DJ gear. They cover everything. Marketing techniques, and even the latest tech trends like AI, which is super relevant right now. Honestly, if you're serious about your DJ career, you need to check them out. And here's the best part, we've got an exclusive deal just for the Groove Junction listeners. You can subscribe right now by searching Pro Mobile Magazine and hitting the subscribe button. Just use our special code, GroovePMSUB, for a 25% discount on your first year's subscription, which is 6 magazines delivered to your door. That's Pro Mobile Magazine. Don't miss out.
Thank you, Pro Mobile Magazine, for sponsoring the rundown. So, as always, John, what
Yes.
have you been up to?
Proper busy week. Last couple of weeks I've had off. I've had a nice, easy couple of weeks. I did a little tinkering about here and there, but nothing major. But this week, bang, full on, full steam ahead. 4 events this week, my friend.
Nice.
2 school discos,
Good.
1 60th birthday,
Lovely.
and a 5-year-old kids party on Sunday. And it was like full on.
5?
She was 5. Yeah, 5.
5-year-old?
Yeah, I started 5-year-olds and then,
Oh.
yeah. Oh, it's brilliant, Matt. You know what? The 5-year-old birthday, if I'm totally honest, was probably the best party out of the whole week. It was so good. So good.
No offense to the other parties, then.
No offense needed, but I mean, it was good. You know, it was fun.
What made it so good then? What made that one so good for you?
I think what it was for me, I mean, the only downside to it is that it was during the day. It was like 3 till 5, so it's broad daylight. The hall I was in didn't have any curtains, so the lighting didn't really do a lot. But all the children were involved from start to finish. I even got the adults, the mums and dads, they were all involved. And when I sort of said to them, you know, we're going to sing happy birthday, let's get everyone onto the dance floor so we can sing the happy birthday, everyone came down. And it was just the fact that everyone was joining in, everyone was participating.
Nice.
You know, you didn't have that child sat in the corner, I don't want to get involved. You know, you didn't have that dad sitting there giving it, I could be watching the Formula One right now rather than being here. You didn't have that. And I think that's what it was like, made it so good. You know, all the other parties were good. The school discos were great. They were always great. And the 60th was brilliant because everyone, like the pub I was at, they were showing the FA Cup final. So it was packed, beer garden packed. And the landlord sort of said, look, any chance we can sort of like put the speaker pointing out to the beer garden? I'm like, we can do that. So I spun one of the speakers around into the beer garden. A little bit of reggae, a little bit of like the Scarry type music. People dancing in the beer garden. I loved it. And he even asked me to stay on an extra hour.
And did you?
I did.
Did you get paid for that extra hour?
That's another story.
Listen, this is part of the rundown.
Well,
That sounds like a... Hold on a minute. That sounds like a no. If somebody's asked you to remain on to do an extra hour, and you've not taken any pound notes at this point.
He said to me, we stay on for another hour. I said, well, I'm only paid till 11. He said, I'll pay you till 12. So I said, okay. I gave him my price. He went, no problem. And what I should have done is give it, let's see some pound notes first. I didn't. I just carried on through till midnight just because the vibe was great. It was a great vibe.
Okay. All right. Listen. Right. We had a conversation. Right. We're going back in time now. We had a conversation just after January when we talked about on the podcast the same scenario happening to me that they asked me to stay on. And I was like, I'm more than happy to stay on, but I'm going to need extra funds to do that. If you can't find the extra funds, I'm sorry, I have to finish at that time. Yeah. They went out, did a little whip around, and next thing you know, money was handed over. You and I had this conversation where you said, on my phone, through my business account, they can tap and pay there. And I was like, oh, that's such a great idea instead of getting the cash. Because for a man who does not practice what he's preaching,
I know, I feel terrible.
On a podcast back in January,
I know, I do feel terrible.
You didn't take money there and then.
No, I didn't. And I do feel bad. It is a schoolboy error, and I can't really be forgiven for the information that I gave out back in January. But I have since been in contact with the pub, or they contact me. They said, "Do we owe you any money?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah, you do." He said, "Come up Thursday, and I'll sort you out." So I will get paid. But all right. I think that you're right, Matty. If they want you to stay on, you need to see the pound notes. If you want the extra money, you've got to see the pound notes. Because for me, I'll go back to that pub again. That won't be a problem. But if you're doing another party, like a birthday party or someone, you might not see that person again. So you need the readies.
Exactly.
And that's where I went wrong. So it won't be happening again. Yes. So there we go. Yeah. What about yourself? I mean, you had quite a busy weekend as well, didn't you?
Mate, was it ever? I'm still looking back at it going, I've gone from a corporate gig into a private gig into a club gig back to back to back. It was quite surreal, really, as the week went on. But the corporate one was great. Flew all the way up to Nottingham on the Thursday night. Did the corporate one. That went down well, just a couple of hours, and that was it was a good little sesh. And then back down Friday, private. Parents Association of a primary school summer party. No kids allowed. UV light. It was. They loved it. Thank you, Mr. John Colley and Dijon Entertainments, for loaning me their UV lights. No problem. But they loved it. That was a really good night, actually. Really, that was a real good fun night. And then on Saturday, I did a afternoon, early evening slot for a company called Beyond 30, where they do 80s, 90s, and noughties nights in Pop World in Milton Keynes.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. So it was quite a busy one, has to be said. But yeah, really enjoyable. Really enjoyable.
Love that. No problems?
No problems at all. Took out my AZ, my Alpha Theta AZ, for the corporate one and the private one on the Friday, and then used the Pioneer Opus Quad in Pop World. First time I touched an Opus Quad.
Big, isn't it? It's big.
Not as big as the AZ.
Is it not?
No. But what I would say is that it's been in the club a little while and it was battered.
Really?
Yeah. Because I was expecting, because like you said, the Opus Quad's a fairly new controller.
About a year and a half old, I think, 18 months or something like that.
But it was battered. It was absolutely battered. But I took my own controller. I didn't take the AZ, but I took my spare, thinking I'll take that. But then I was like, no, I'm going to back myself here. I'm backing myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to plug into the Opus Quads.
So how did that go? You just said you've never touched one before. So how was it simple?
I mean, I would say this is advice really to anyone doing that. Go in, give yourself. Don't just rock up 10 minutes, 5 minutes before they open the doors. I got there probably 40 minutes, 30 minutes before doors opening and had a little tinker, sorted the settings out. The interface is very, very similar to the AZ, so that helped. But yeah, but the actual piece itself had some wear and tear.
A bit of wear and tear, has it? Yeah. I think that's the thing. When you get the club DJs and all of that, they go in and there's a controller already in the booth. It's not their controller, so there's not as much love shown.
Yeah, and that's why I would say to any DJ, if you end up going into venues for the first time, like clubs that have got stuff in there or pubs that have got stuff ready for you to use, just get yourself familiar with it before you actually then start working on it. But yeah, man, it was busy week. But yeah, that completes this week's The Rundown, which is sponsored by Pro Mobile Magazine.
Thank you, Pro Mobile Magazine.
So, John, as always, not as always, but we haven't had a guest on for a while.
No, we haven't, but that is just about to change.
And tonight we have.
And I'm looking forward to this.
Shall we go and see our guest after the break?
I think we'll do that after the break.
As promised, so please welcome our guest on this week's The Groove Junction, Mr. Simon Bennett from WolfMix, everybody. Yay!
Thank you very much.
Where's my jingle gone? I do this every time. I don't have my jingle ready to.
Only got one button to push.
Found it. There we go. There we go.
Only got one job to do, Matty.
Simon, thanks very much for jumping on. We have been talking about the WolfMix for a number of weeks now, and in particular, the wonderful upgrade. And I say that from personal experience because I've used it now quite a few times since the update. But we are going to talk and get a little bit down and dirty on the technical side of things on the WolfMix, and in particular, version 2.0, which dropped a couple of weeks ago by your good selves. But before we get into that, thanks for coming on, Simon.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. It's a pleasure. Nice to be invited.
Yeah, lovely. So, Simon, I want to know, firstly, how you got into this industry and doing what you do for WolfMix now. There must have been some backstory there that has propelled you to the point of where you've gone, I'm creating and overseeing the software creation of the WolfMix. So how did it start?
It's a crazy journey. It started off with music. You know, it always does, doesn't it? I think a lot of people in this industry, it always starts with the music. So, in fact, I started learning piano when I was 7 years old. And then that kind of turned into doing like mobile discos and things, you know, with a couple of CD players just linked with a couple of phono cables to a mixing desk and going around friends' houses, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And, you know, the lights were just like 4 bulbs that would like flash faster and faster and faster. Red, yellow, green, blue, red, yellow, green, blue. As the music got louder and louder, we had some great little garage parties. So it started from that. Those discos turned into band nights, and then those band nights turned into buying DMX lights. And in fact, the company I work for, I used to use their software. So WolfMix is part of the Nicolaudie group, and they make the Sunlight and the Dazzlight software. And I used to use the Sunlight software when I used to control my DMX lights at local band nights. And then I ended up helping them out at exhibitions like the Plaza show in London. They were a French company, you see, and they needed English speakers to help with the documentation and explain the products. So I kind of started off on the tech support side of things. But, you know, once you work with these kind of products, you start getting to know what works, what doesn't work, and then you start getting ideas. And it's always been like, you know, what would I like a product to do? Like, what's the product I'm currently using missing? Okay. So at first it was like, a lot of these products, they're not very fun to use. You know, DJ products are fun to use. They look cool. They're easy to use. They're intuitive. You don't need to get a user manual out. Whereas with lighting controllers, they always seemed a little bit different. They always seemed to have a lot more buttons, and there was always like a lot more metal. You know, they were heavier and they were bigger, but they didn't seem to do as much.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, can we take that kind of concept that they have in like the synthesizers and, you know, the little Akai samplers and the Native Instruments kit? And like, can we take that concept and do something with lighting control? And that's kind of how the WolfMix was born.
Wow. Because I mean, I know when I first started using DMX, all the back of my lights, all your little dip switches, it weren't like digital like now. It's not like that now. So, you know, you saying that from where it started with like your red, green and blue lights, and now where we are with like what we've got now with the WolfMix, how time has like literally shifted and the technology has shifted. to what we have now. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a journey and a half in itself.
And with the lighting fixtures as well, you can go online now and you can spend less than £100 and you can buy a par can that can do 60 million colours by mixing red, not just red, green and blue, but white LEDs, or they're even doing lime now. They say you can have more vibrant colours with a lime LED. And these aren't fixtures that you need thousands of pounds to buy. These aren't things that you'll see in the West End theatre. The things you can just go online and add to your mobile DJ setup. And in the past, it just wasn't like that. If you wanted to buy when I first got into DMX, it was like Martin. They were the big company. It was the Martin MX1 scanners. They were the first DMX lights I had. They were about 500 quid. And when you're a teenager and you're saving the pennies to buy those fixtures, even just having two, it's £1,000 investment.
Back there's a lot of money. £1,000 a lot of money now, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. Go back 20 years.
More, Wow. I do remember Martin. Martin's a very club industry standard as well, weren't they? Martin lights and all of that in the clubs and everything. So, yeah, I do. It's interesting, though, isn't it? When you think, when we're talking about going back and how it all started, how you've got this. So you had this idea, you wanted to mash the two, sort of like the two things together to come up with the standalone controller. I mean, that's a thought is one thing, but put it into practicality is something completely different. How did you take that next step?
That was difficult. So from the programming point of view, I had to learn C. So I'd done a little bit of home automation and dabbling around in programming before, but I realized, like, if I was going to get this off the ground, because I was working for a company that makes software, and I was going to the colleagues and the owners at the time and saying, well, I want to make a piece of hardware. And they're like, but we're not a hardware company. We're a software company. What we're good at is software. We don't do just hardware. So I had to basically learn C to make a prototype. So I started off getting a little demo kit, which came with like a little display, almost like your Arduino kind of thing. And it started off literally by lighting up little pixels on a display. Okay. And I worked with our designer, the same guy that we'd come up with the Light Rider app with. So we kind of knew a little bit about what we wanted to do after we'd done the Light Rider app. We wanted to take the kind of concept of the Light Rider app. For those of you who don't know, the Light Rider app is like an iOS and Android app, which kind of creates effects automatically and allows you to feel like you're playing a computer game when you're playing with your lights.
And that's still being used now. People can still use the Light Rider and DMX Go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the great thing about the Light Rider app is if you've already got an iPad or an Android tablet, you've already got the hardware. So, you don't need to spend hundreds and hundreds on the hardware. I think like the little DMX dongle we sell now, it's like a couple of £100. It's a third or a quarter of the price of a WolfMix. So, when you're just getting into it, if you've already got that tablet, it's a great way into it without having to invest hundreds and hundreds of pounds on a piece of hardware.
Lovely.
I mean, I must admit, when I started DMXing, I was Show Express. I used that. Yeah. And then the WolfMix came along. And one of the things that I fell in love with was the fact that the Show Express software that I was using, I had to wait for my laptop to start up, which could take minutes. Now, I have come a little bit prepared to this, Matty. Here is my WolfMix. My WolfMix is in off mode.
Demonstration.
I am now ready to go. That is how quick it is. A demonstration with the. For those of you who haven't got the
for our listening, John has just plugged.
I keep forgetting about that. I keep forgetting about that. To be fair, but then that was one of the things that sold me when the WolfMix came out. It was the speed and the quickness of it from Show Express. That was one of the things, and no doubt about it. I love it.
Yeah, we spent a long time on that, actually. Like we had a stopwatch and I was connecting it. By then I was working with one other developer and I said, right, this thing, it can never take more than 1.5 seconds to boot up. Because, you start adding features and then you put some code here and some code there and things start slowing. You've got to be super disciplined. Like before, like every few days, it's like, okay, let's start the stopwatch again. Let's plug it in. It's got to be less than 1.5 seconds to boot up. So, wow. and one of the ways we managed to do that, a lot of people were saying, to make a product this big, you need an operating system. Even on like a little standalone device, you need like a little Linux operating system or something like that. And from the very beginning, I was like, no way. I don't want any operating system. This is like raw C. C coding. So basically, for those who don't know, C is like it's a basic programming language that a lot of other programming languages are built on top of. And C allows you to interact like at a lower level directly with the hardware. So from the very beginning, I was like, I want to be interacting with the processor directly and not going through all those layers. I mean, operating systems are great. They allow you to develop things a lot more quickly. But if you really want it like absolutely solid and stable and reliable and fast, and it's always a good route to go.
Wow. So Simon, tell me, you had the idea, you wanted to mix the two together, the software and the hardware together. How long would you say that took you to go from the drawing board to what we have like now?
Right. So I'll give it you in two stages. It's quite funny. So at the very beginning, so it was myself, it was our designer, Fred, and it was a hardware engineer I knew, a guy called Joe. And basically me, Fred and Joe, we got together and we bought a 3D printer, a Prusa 3D printer, which is like one of the do-it-yourself at home 3D printers. We watched a couple of YouTube videos one weekend and we said, okay, let's try and build the biggest thing that we can fit on this 3D printer bed. And that's why the WolfMix is the size it is. That's the biggest thing that you could build at the time on a Prusa 3D printer. So we basically did that design in one weekend of the actual hardware. Like it was an empty shell, but we drew it on a piece of paper, we did the design and we 3D printed it all in a weekend. To get it to the stage where we had like a 3D printed prototype with like a homemade demo board inside, it took about 4 months. We were working really quickly, and I'm talking like bank holidays, evenings, weekends. We were still doing the day job on the other brands at the time, so we weren't even working like your 9 till 5 on it. It was like get home every night and get stuck into the WolfMix stuff. So that went on for about 4 months. To get it from working prototype to actually being fully complete, ready for sale, it was probably another 1.5 to 2 years after that.
Wow.
So it was like 4 months to get the initial idea done and then like 18 to 24 months to actually have it for sale. It's so much work getting something from like that initial prototype to something that you can sell. But that was through COVID as well. So we had the initial prototype working in 19.
Okay.
And what we did through COVID, and this was part of the COVID period that actually worked in our favor. We couldn't sell anything. We couldn't push forward. So we used that time just to test it. And I used to run some little live streams at home where I'd take like the WolfMix, which was kind of in pieces at the time. It was all like demo things that had been homemade and shoved together. And I'd do little light shows and I'd do weekly disco streams where place, it was quite popular at the time, wasn't it? Through COVID, people would do like these live DJ streams. So I'd do these live DJ streams and I'd test the WolfMix at the same time. And that gave me about a year to like iron out all the little bugs and like make incremental improvements. And, had COVID not happened, we would have been in the office and there would have been deadlines and it would have all been a bit...
Do you think it would have been a lot longer, the delivery end of that, because of all the other work you're doing in the background?
Possibly. I think we would have been under more pressure to have released it. And then when you're under pressure to release it, at the end, it's the reliability that you sacrifice. And, the same kind of happened with this 2.0, which I'm sure we'll get onto in a bit. But for most of the 2.0, we actually rewrote about 80% of the firmware between 1X and 2X. We remade the architecture and everything. And like we had a working version, which we were showing at ISE in Barcelona in February. And it was working. Like we showed it for 4 days and I think it crashed twice in 4 days. And that was like the first week of February. But I didn't want to put it out there until like we were absolutely, happy with it. So, and you probably saw, on the Facebooks and on the forums, people are like, hey guys, come on, you announced this on second week of February. We're now like the last week of April. It's been 6 weeks. What are you doing?
Yeah. I must say, Simon, we've spoken about the new update in previous podcasts, and I must admit, when you sent me the beta version, said, look, we need to test it, and your little video, and I said this to all our listeners and our viewers, they are not going to release it until they are happy that it is rock solid, right? And I kept telling people that because we was kind of tight-lipped. We weren't allowed to say too much about it, but we were allowed to say that it's coming. And they go, and we had messages, didn't we, Matty, saying like, how long is it? When's it coming? When's it dropping? Is it going to drop? I've got a gig next weekend. Is it going to drop? And the only answer we was giving them, say, look, when they're happy, they'll do it. They will release it. And we did have quite a few comments saying, look, when is it coming? And I think that just goes to show what you and your team are so passionate about it. That you want it to go out, and you want it to go out right. And I think that's
exactly.
From what you've said.
And we did do it for free, by the way. No one else. We never asked anyone to pay for it.
No, and talking about feather in the cap type scenario, the fact that if you've got the hardware already, listen, this new update's coming. And we'll get we will get into the new update, but the new update is amazing. But before we get to the update, I want to still find out about that. So once you've done the prototype, you've gone through the testing that you can at this point. We're coming the back end of COVID. At what point do you then go to your bosses and go, I think we've got it. I think this is it.
Yeah, well, it was the owner, Bruno Nicolaudie, who he wrote one of the first ever piece of DMX software back in the late 80s.
Right.
He was programming on the Amiga, and
wow.
Yeah, it was
okay. I remember playing the Amiga.
88, is that? So he coded like himself back in the day. So he's used to working off software margins. Now software it costs a lot of hours to make, but once you've got it, it's just software. You don't actually have to build a physical product, so it's a lot easier to sell. Whereas something like the WolfMix, you're taking a risk because you're building a piece of hardware. So the next stage was, he said, you can do it, but it's got to work. You can have the best ideas in the world, but if you can't make it work as a business, you can't take it to the next level. So myself and Fred, we went to China and we spent like a month visiting different factories, because we were like, okay, if we're going to get this made in China, we want to make sure it's coming out of places that match with our values, places that are actually creating good quality stuff. Because the thing about China, like some factories are very good, in fact, and some factories are very bad. And then, so it gets its reputation of not being good quality when people are just like, okay, well, let's just make it in China. We'll find the cheapest factory, send it off and whatever. You've actually got to go there and you've got to visit them and you've got to watch the people doing the plastic molds. You've got to look at the machinery. We went to check out the company that make the silicone, literally pouring in the silicone molds, and we were looking at the machines they have, stamping out the silicone for the buttons to make sure we had like the perfect silicone buttons with the perfect finish and the perfect quality. Yeah, that was a big learning curve, because we hadn't done that before. We'd made little USB DMX interfaces, and they're generally a little PCB in a little plastic box. It's not the same as making a full-on standalone controller. That was a challenge.
It must have been really difficult going from creating the Light Rider, where it's on a tablet. It's literally a program. It's there for you. You're not having to do any physical elements to it. It's literally the programming that sits behind it. Where to this is, actually, I've got this whole motherboard and I've got buttons, I've got screens, and it must have been a bit of a, is this going to be right?
Yeah, and you've got to go, I mean, you hear it said all the time, you've got to go into this a little bit blind, because I think if like the mountain you're about to climb, you'd think, can't be bothered doing this,
So from a DJ perspective then, the people who have got a WolfMix or have seen it, and I'm going to be putting some images and some video into the podcast for people to watch it if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify. But in relation to it, what made you come up with the design that you've got? I know you said because it was the largest thing you could create on a 3D printer, but what made you go, right, we need it at a slight angle, I want the screen here? What was the thought processes behind that from a DJ point of view?
Yeah, so I think we started off with the Matrix, like the idea of the Matrix. So I wanted like a home, so we wanted something where you could mix your lights. Just a bit of a backstory of where we got the name from, by the way. So I wanted to call it I wanted something strong. I wanted to call it something like Wolfgang, but you got Wolfgang guitars, so we couldn't have Wolfgang. And I was like, well, it's like a mixer. I wanted to create something that you could mix. So that was kind of the first concept. It was like, I want you to be able to mix your lights like you mix sound or like you mix drums. So, if you imagine like your MPC drum pads, where you've got like a matrix that does different things, or I've got a Native Instruments machiner where you've got the colored drum pads, and depending what mode the controller's in, that that matrix turns into doing different things. So that was where we started off with the design. So I was like, okay, we can't call it Wolfgang, and we want to be able to mix with the light. So it's like a wolf mixer. So for a while it was called Wolf Mixer, and then we shortened it to WolfMix. I think one of the names at one point was Lightmare. Lightmare. But then I knew everyone would be like, I'm having a lightmare with this.
I bet that got canned quickly.
Yeah, it's still like, I see the name crop up here and there in some of the old files, some of the old code. I see Lightmare. Yeah, but it got canned fairly quickly. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we started off with the matrix. That was that matrix of buttons was where we started off, and then we knew we wanted a screen, so it made sense to have the screen above the matrix. And we wanted to take. I always wanted to take inspiration from like the mixer that you have in the middle of a DJ controller as well. So one of the early versions of the designs we had, it had like a fader on each, like 4 channels basically, 4 channels of a mixer. So we couldn't fit the faders on the product, so we ended up going for encoders, but we wanted to kind of continue that matrix onto the display. So it was kind of like the matrix and the display that came first. And then we were like, okay, well, the matrix needs to do different things because there just aren't enough buttons to be able to do everything without it kind of changing mode. So we thought, okay, well, the mode buttons, let's just do a very simple like strip of mode buttons on the left. And then everyone wants like one punch flash buttons, one hit buttons that just do what you need to do. So we thought, let's shove a line of big buttons on the right. And we kept coming up with other designs where we had like some buttons up here, some buttons up there. But I was like, no, you've got to keep it simple. And one of the things like me and Fred decided from the beginning, it had to look friendly when it was turned off. So even before you plugged it in, you had to have an idea how you were going to be able to use it. Like at a glance, you had to just look at it and like be instantly familiar. So it had to kind of look distinctive. So with like the screen, the matrix, the strip on the left, the strip on the right, we're like, that's our look. You know, in fact, I've even got the box here. I probably can't see in this light, but we kind of just sketch out you can see it just in like a gloss that we have on here. Yeah. And it just kind of has that, kind of that look to it. So that was the.
Do you know one of the things that I found really appealing of it when I first brought mine was the fact that it is at that slight angle raised.
Yes.
Now I liked that out of all of that because we lay things down and we've got that, but you've got that at such a nice, comfortable operating angle for DJs to just come in and press rather than you're looking over something to then try and press it.
I mean, part of that came because of the screen. So like our first prototype was flat, but you couldn't see the screen because the light's just reflecting off it. And I often have that problem with DJ controllers sometimes, you know, when they're flat like that, the light kind of reflects it. And I know, you know, like the newer Pioneer and Denons, you know, they always kind of tilt the screen up a little bit now. And I'd seen it before in like drum samplers and even in synthesizers, you know, like this, I've got this little Moog synthesizer here. It's like an analog synth. It's not even a lighting controller, but, you know, again, you've kind of got that wedge. And that
angle, that wedge to it.
I mean, honestly, the WolfMix, we could probably have made it like a little bit steeper. It would have been, I know some people, they put it on like their own stands and they wedge it up a bit more, but it just makes the product bigger. We need a bigger box. We have more metal that we need to ship. It's not as environmentally friendly if we ship in the real world. You know, I wanted to keep everything kind of compact and try and squeeze as much power as we possibly could into a small device.
And you've done a great job with it. And you know, I think the WolfMix users out there, I think once you get your head into the presets, setting this, setting that up, you're away. I think the biggest thing for me, and we're going to get into now the 2.0, the double trouble element that you've now for free, because I say it again, for free, dropped for everybody. It's an absolute sensation. And the reason I say that is because you've put so much stuff into it. For me, who I'm too busy to be worrying about other bits and pieces and doing loads of different things. For me now, I've just plugged everything in. I've hit that AI generator and I'm done. Like there might be a couple of tweaks here and there that I might want to do. But to be honest, I haven't done them. And I've been using it now since it came out, and I've not added anything else to it and just gone purely on all the stuff that you've put in there. So what was the decision around going from the big upgrade into 2.0 and giving now so much element or so many. I mean, it's massive now. Like the product itself, I think, is actually grown massively because of this 2.0 version. So what was the decisions behind that?
Well, we weren't planning on doing it. That's the first thing.
Okay, right. Okay, that's interesting.
I put it this way. I wanted to put a few extra features in and got a little bit carried away. That's
I'm pleased
basically
you
how
did.
it happened.
I'm pleased you did, Simon. I'm so happy that you did.
Yeah, so we it's always difficult because we have a lot of requests all the time, and I know a lot of people don't think we do, but we do write down like every single request. Like if someone makes a request on our social media or on the forum, it goes onto a list and we have a discussion about it. And that list, I think right now it's kind of hovering at about 150 items. So,
Since
and
the
generally
update.
what we do, we go down the list and we take and we're like, okay, people keep asking that they want two effects at the same time. They want to be able to do two move effects at the same time. They want some lights going up and down and others doing a circle. They keep asking for it. And then people kept asking to MIDI map the flash buttons. So the guy who runs our tech department, Alex, he came to me. He's like, please, can you just MIDI map these flash buttons? And I'm tired of people asking me every day to MIDI map flash buttons. So that goes on a list, and then eventually we say, okay, let's try and do these two tasks, and then we'll get another request for another two tasks. So it's a rolling list, and it's ever increasing. And it's difficult because when I get a request, 90% of the time, I'm like, yep, it would be great if it could do that. But if we implemented everything, it would just be impossible to use at the end, and it wouldn't start up in 1.5 seconds. I'll tell you that. It will be a massive arena console where 90% of people will use 5% of the features, because that's generally how it works. So I'm always about getting the fundamentals right first. Like that WolfMix intelligence, being able to hit one button and it creates 80 presets and you've got full use out of the controller. That feature probably took about a week to make. Whereas like the feature to play two move effects at the same time, that took months, because we had to take apart our entire code for managing effects, and we had to remake everything and redesign everything. And it's not another screen. So we had to figure out, okay, well, how are you going to trigger effect 1 and effect 2 without, in a piece of hardware, you can't just add another button. Otherwise, we'd have to do an MK3 or an MK4. So it's like, how can we allow our 30,000 existing WolfMix users to take advantage of all these new features without actually changing the hardware? And it's quite fun, actually. That's where the challenge is, whilst keeping it intuitive. So yeah, once I did the two effects, I had to pull apart so much of the code. It's like, oh, well, seeing as we do two effects, why don't we double the amount of colors whilst we're at it? And at the same time, we had to kind of change how our project data was stored. So we had to rejig that and condense that. So it's like, well, now we can add 100 projects. If we just do this little bit extra, we can have 100 projects. And oh, well, now we've got enough memory to be able to put 200 presets instead of 100 presets. So we only need another few more days of development and we can do the 200 presets. So it kind of ended up like that. But obviously, you've got to draw the line somewhere. Otherwise, you're forever developing and then you never release anything.
I mean, the version that everyone was using before 2.0 came out, you turn on your WolfMix, and yes, you've got your move effects, your beam effects, and your color effect. You've got all of that, but nothing was created for you. You kind of had to do that yourself. And one of the good things about the WolfMix is that you can do it all on the fly, very, very simply. At what point did you think, right, I'm going to add AI in, and you know what, I'm going to make it so easy. I'm going to give you 4 pages of presets that we've done for you. That is going to, when you click on that AI button, it's going to go through your fixture listing. It's going to go, right, this light has got this gobo on this. I mean, that sounds like a minefield to me. But you've come up with 4 pages of presets. What made you do that? What made you do the presets rather than just leave it as it was before and let everybody else make their own?
It was mainly demonstrating it like it shows. I remember in particular we did a show in Mumbai, and we have our own demo project that runs at these shows that we create ourselves and we have running with the 3D visualizer, and people would come up to it and they play with it and they're like, I love it, it's all here, this is great. So if I buy a WolfMix, is this what I see? And I was saying, yeah, this is what you'll see. You buy a WolfMix, there you go, that's what you've got. But then when I started thinking, I'm like, actually it's not really, because when you press new, everything's cleared and you don't have that And again, it came down to some of the events I was doing myself. I'd switch up some lights, or be taking a WolfMix to like a friend's party, and they'd have some different DMX lights, and I just didn't have time to be able to create everything again myself. So I was like, we really need just like a one-hit wonder button, which gives you that, which gets you started really, and then allows you to then creatively change things. And we're like, this is the first step in a few things as well. So right now, we've just got that one button in the middle. What we want to do next, we want to allow you to kind of choose your mood and like choose the kind of colors that you want. So, if you're doing a gig for Halloween, you're going to want purples and oranges and greens. So it will focus on those kind of colors. If you're doing a New Year's event, maybe you want brighter white and pink colors, or a Valentine's event, you want your pinks and your reds. So we're planning on, like, we've kind of built a foundation where we're going to add like other options on top.
Wow. We've got a thing on the Groove Junction that's called the Groove Junction Goodie, which is like something that somebody pulls out of the air, and it's a real good little thing. If you start dropping all of these new little bits and pieces as the update continues in this 2.0 future, 2.1, 2.2, 2.3 is going to look amazing. It's going to look
amazing. And you could probably get a Groove Junction Goodie as well. They're not giving out lightly.
You don't give out Groove Junction lightly.
It would be a privilege.
Yeah.
So Simon, you're thinking about adding on some more colours and this, that, and the other. Earlier on, we spoke about like the lime lighting. That I know that's already within the colour picker, where you can start adjusting your lime and all that. So aside from the extra colours and the sequences that you're going to be adding, what else can you possibly put into this little machine? What?
Yeah, well, it's very easy to overdo it with this stuff, and then you just end up losing that ease of use that kind of makes it pop. It uses that, it'll lose that spark that makes it fun to use. And we have to be really careful about this, because you see it happen all the time. I don't know if you use more the Apple gear or the Windows gear, but I've seen in the past with the Apple OS is they start adding more and more features, and suddenly you've got Windows whizzing around all over the place and all these animations and things happening, and you think you didn't have to do that. You've kind of lost some of the simplicity. And I know Apple, they've even taken a step back in recent years, and they've kind of gone a little bit simpler again. So that's always something I've got to be really careful of, because also for me, I've been using this product for 5 years now, or I've been including the development, it's been 6-7 years. So for me, it's I want to add more and more stuff, but for someone, it's still got to be intuitive for someone who's coming to it for the first time. So we will add new features, but I'm always looking to see if we can simplify something or make something even easier to do than it is now. Like what we did with the intelligent preset, one button to do stuff, things like, I'd love a set of buttons to do build-ups, for example. So, you've got the strobe and you've got the wolf. In fact, this is funny. Whenever we get like an old unit back, which is a few years old, and has been in a club, it's always the strobe and the wolf button and the blinder button. Those three buttons are where the black starts to rub off a little bit.
John's unit.
Honestly,
you're mashing those three buttons.
I'm not so much. I don't use the wolf as much as I do the strobe and the black, the strobe and the blinder. I mean, I was actually talking to your colleague Alexander, saying, I've got sticky buttons, and we had a very long email conversation, and I've now fixed it from with his help. So those do get smashed. Those buttons do get smashed quite a lot. Yeah.
But in fact, under the hood. So this basically what happened with 2.0. The firmware got so big that we had to basically rip out the foundations and rebuild them. It's like, if you're building like another story on your house or an extension on your house, there's only so far you can go until you have to rebuild those foundations, because they can't support the house anymore. Ripping out something from underneath and putting something new in is actually more difficult than building it in the first place. The reason we replaced these foundations wasn't just for the double trouble. It was to prepare the WolfMix for something exciting and new that we have coming next year. So that's kind of the thing that we're working on. First,
people. You heard it here first.
There we go.
The question I'm going to pose now, with all the updates that you've done on this one, which you've obviously been super excited about because you've added as much as you want to at this point, have you seen a growth in sales of the WolfMix because of the 2.0 version coming out, or is it too early to say at this point?
Yeah, it's a little too early to say at the moment because it's not official yet. And also because sales are actually still growing, which we're
Okay.
really surprised about.
That's really good.
Usually you get a couple of years because it's been out over a couple of years now. We're on the MK2, and you expect to hit that curve and for it to start going down, but it's still increasing, which is we're really lucky. We can't believe it. Every day we're thankful for all it's the great communities, these kind of podcasts and people talking about it and like being creative with it. I love seeing the videos that people share. We all, I don't know if you follow us on Instagram, but now we make sure every day we're reposting like all the different events.
You've reposted a few of my little ones that I've done. I've got two friends, if you like, who have, one has gone out and bought the WolfMix, doesn't know DMX at all. I've got to go around his house and sort his out for him. And there's another guy as well. He said, look, it's so simple, it's so easy. I know what I'm doing, but I don't know what I'm doing. Can you come and help me? And the WolfMix, even though it's not, it's very popular. We've noticed it with people messaging in the Groove Junction and all of that. We've noticed that it is a popular piece of kit. Yeah, you've done well there, mate. You've done well.
Thank you.
Oh,
Can I ask, on the 2.0 update, what do you have a favorite button, if you like, a sequence, a show, a preset? Do you have a favorite?
I mean, a favorite button, that's quite an easy one to answer, the WolfMix Intelligence, because you just generate presets and boom, you've got your project. So, that would be the thing that turned out really well. I'm quite happy with the Wolf Rider that we were talking about earlier. One of the features I like a lot is the new link feature, the link fixture. I use those pixel bars, and you can do so much now with those LED pixel bars that you couldn't do before. Now you've got link fixture. You can kind of copy an effect on each fixture, and then you can add a bit of phasing, and you can create waves, and it just opens out. You've only got 4 encoders, but you can do so much more with those 4 encoders once you hit that link button. So it's maybe one of the features that you probably don't notice so much, but if you do have those LED bars and you hit that button and you just start kind of playing with what the effects can do, you'll realize you can do so much with it. So maybe one other thing as well. I mean, it depends what kind of lights you're using. So like I've got a couple of lasers, and like choosing laser patterns was always annoying because you'd use the gobo screen and you could only see 5 gobos at a time. Now you can hit the encoder and you can see 20 gobos at a time. So with your lasers, you can choose your favorite 20 patterns. You can hit the gobo button and boom, you've got 20 patterns, and you can trigger all your different laser effects on the fly. So yeah, I quite like that one as well. Honestly, for me, I'll be honest, those double effects are not interesting for my setups. I can see how they would be for other people, but for me, I prefer, creatives always say it's easier to be creative when you have restrictions. And now you can have like 2 effects at once. You're kind of releasing some of those restrictions. And sometimes it's easy to be less creative when you have less technical boundaries. So what I'd say to anyone who wants to use that second color move or beam effect, use it sparingly and only when you really need to.
Yeah, I must admit, my favorite button is the offset button now. So if you've got moving heads and you've got a pointer straight, we spoke about this last week very briefly.
We did.
And one's slightly up, one's slightly down. The offset button now, you don't have to do a live edit. Love that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, I like that. That took a very long time to make as well. So I was happy with
that.
Glad you
did. I'm glad you took the time to make it.
Yeah, that took months to make. The cross took about 2 hours to make. I couldn't believe how
cross is another good one.
Yeah, when you just cross the beams, that was just a last minute idea that we threw in there.
Really good. I mean, obviously we do have listeners that have WolfMix. We have listeners that don't have WolfMix. With the WolfMix, if you haven't got the WolfMix, I mean, your company have given you 2 universes for free, the Universe 1 and 2. So we will talk about what a universe is to our viewers on another episode. Value for money, in my opinion, the WolfMix wins hands down. Now, I'm not going to lie, it's not the cheapest unit on the market. It's not. But you've already said that this evening, Simon. You've already said that. But the update that we got, 2.0 Double Trouble, totally free. The technical support that you offer, your team offer, free. There's no subscriptions. There's nothing. The only thing you've got to pay for is the electricity to power it. Well, actually, that's a lie, because the WolfMix will run off of a battery pack.
Yeah.
I know this because I've tried it.
You can run it for quite a while as well. If you've got those ones that charge your iPhone or your Android like twice, you can run a WolfMix all night off it. It'll last about, I think, 15 hours or something off your standard battery.
Wow. What you got to say to that, Matty?
Well, I've got mine. Like I'm in. I love it. I loved it before the 2.0 version came in. Once I got my head around, I want this color, I want this sequence, I want that. But the fact that you've created a huge amount of presets. The colors, I think, on the new version, the 2.0 version, I think the new color schemes on there are eclipse anything else. Like I love the colors, and I think you've really thought out the colors for a particular preset that you've created. Like hats off for that. Hats off.
Yeah. I think.
But yeah, I think it's really good. Like the candy, the Calypso stuff, all of that. I think I really like that. I like those soft pastely colors as well. That they work very, very well together.
I think also with the presets that you've put in, especially on page 1, I think a mobile DJ can now look at their light in a little bit more of a creative manner, because there's so many different. I mean, one of my other favorite ones is a sequence called Atom, where it's sort of like, and then they burst out. Now, before 2.0, I would never think of creating that myself. Or the can, okay, we've all done the can, but you've taken a lot of thought process out of a mobile DJ. As Matty said earlier on, he's too busy he wants to push a button and there we go. And the fact that you could set up your own presets using the ones that you've done as well. You can save them as another preset, and then you can push the encoder and have it running through a scheme like you could on the previous version. You've taken a lot of hard work and a lot of the DJ's time out of that equation for them. You've done it for them. It's a win-win.
That was the plan.
Yeah,
I think it's very handy that you was a mobile DJ yourself as well.
Yeah,
I mean, you've got to use it yourself. That's how. That's
and
how
coming from that background has really set you in a good position of this is what my people want. This is the foundation of what people need to have, and I think it's a great tool. I love it. I can't wait to get it out actually and use it as much as I can when I'm out there. But Simon, thank you for coming on and giving us your backstory.
No problem.
And how the development has happened and the transition from where you were, COVID, to where you are now. And please come back on and tell us
next year when
the big stuff comes. We are looking forward to hearing all about that. So please come back.
I would love to.
We really do appreciate you taking the time out to come and join us here on the Groove Junction tonight. Fantastic.
No problem. Thanks, guys. And it's great what you do. And I'll be subscribing.
Winning.
Hey, there you go.
Love that. Lovely. Thanks, Simon. Take care, my friend.
No problem.
Thank you. Take care.
Good speaking with you.
Well, there you go. What an interesting chat with Simon.
What a lovely guy, first of all.
Yeah, listen, I want to do a pub quiz with that man.
I'll tell you, he knows his stuff.
Sharp,
mate. I would say, really nice guy. Really nice guy. I didn't realise there was so much involved.
Well, I imagine that it would take a little bit of getting off the ground to where it goes, for sure. But
well, yeah.
To the developer, the man who came up with the idea, what he wanted to do with it, and has got this product to market,
and it's a great product.
And it's gone from version to version to version to now have this 2.0 version. And for me, it's the singing or dancing. And I know there's going to be people out there going, look, I'm invested in Sound Switch or I'm invested in this, whatever it may be. But I use it. Every week and I love it.
Yeah. I mean, we like you just said, we know there's people that use Sound Switch. We know there's people that use My DMX Go and all that. We know that Show Express and such like that. It's whatever works for you.
Very true.
Don't get me wrong, WolfMix have put a lot of work into this, and it is a great unit. And I'm saying that because I use it, but I can't take anything away from the other DMX controllers that are out there, because they're, it's like you're a Pioneer that you use Pioneer or Alpha Theta equipment. I use Denon, so it gets the job done.
It does. It's another option for people, just as much as if you're using a different controller or a different make of controller. They are going to do the same thing. They are going to control your music, and these are going to control your lights. But for me, it's the simplicity of this new version of 2.0 that massively helps us mobile DJs. And yes, the WolfMix is in some clubs, it is in some bars, they are using it, but I use it. I use the product from a mobile DJ perspective and absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I did use my DMX Go and had it on an iPad. It only got to the point where my iPad was that old. I didn't want to buy a new iPad. And it was just like, well, I need to get something now. I need to now invest in something. And the WolfMix was the thing that I invested in.
You know what? When when Simon say he wants something that is going to look nice even when it's turned off.
Yeah.
Right. When I get people come round to the old DJ stand and say, "Oh, can I request a song?" Right. The amount of people that are amazed by the flashy lights of the controller, and I've had people say to me, "How do you know what button does what on the WolfMix?" Because I know, because we programmed it. But to someone who doesn't know, that's an impressive bit of kit, because it's like all lights and knobs and buttons and God knows what else. And I love that when they come around the back and they see all the gear.
Even more so now when I've got that DJ console that's open now. My T bar, my T controller,
what do you call it? Console.
My console.
Console.
Icon booths made for me at my request, really.
They did that. I saw some pictures of it the other day on your socials.
Thank you.
It does look very nice. And that set up with the mirror ball, tasty.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. But yeah, I loved it. Great chat tonight with WolfMix.
Absolutely.
Obviously, WolfMix has got some other things coming down the pipeline, and they'll be obviously going to be dropping some updates. But it sounds like they've got something very big happening next year as well. So we'll definitely get Simon back on to talk through this stuff. And it's an absolute pleasure having him on.
I mean, if you guys have got any questions that you want us to forward on to WolfMix, then please email myself, email Matty, drop us a note on the socials like Instagram or YouTube. Drop us and we'll get them questions posted over to them, and we'll report back to you.
Absolutely. Right, John. On that note, I'll see you after the break.
I'll see you. Oh, another break. Another one?
Yeah, I need it.
Okay. After the break.
Welcome back, John. Nice little break, that.
Short and sweet, to the point. Love that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Right, John, what you got coming up, man?
Right, so Friday I'm out with you. We got Silent Disco in St. Albans. But before that, we've been invited to the JBL Open Day on Wednesday.
Yeah, we talked about this last week. We're off to JBL, and we'll report back on how that happened probably in a couple of weeks, because we might probably get them on to talk about their mobile DJ range of speakers that they have. So we've got that little get together on Wednesday. Yeah. And then you got anything Thursday?
No, I'm free Thursday.
And then Friday Silent Disco, St. Albans, 80 style with me, you and Jules.
Yeah, and then Saturday I have a 40th, which I'm very looking forward to it, because I've got a sax player that's doing 2 45-minute sets on his own, and then he's going to play over the top of me, or alongside me, shall I say. Yeah. And then we've got a singer that's also doing 2 45-minute sets on her own. So that leaves me about an hour, which I want garage.
I tell you what, right? I tell you what, you can really get to town with the old WolfMix.
Absolutely. I am so looking forward to it.
You're going to be Mr. Light Controller. You're going to sort out, WolfMix is going to be absolutely on fire with the amount of work that you're going to be doing.
You know what?
You're not DJing.
No.
During all that period, so you can utilize and program stuff and do things on the fly and set that in there.
I'm actually going to take an extra couple of lights with me. They want the white setup, you see. So I'm thinking, well, let me just take my 4 white moving heads. I know I'd only take 2. Huh?
Do you want to take my 2?
What, take your 2 what?
Got the same, my 2 moving heads.
No, I don't want to do that. Oh, Thank you for the offer. But the thing is, because I've got the white setup, right, I've got 2 of the both lights, but then I'm going to take the 2 Equinox as well, which are slightly smaller.
Right.
Right now, the venue has its own mirror ball in the ceiling. Right.
Right.
So I'm really going to go. I'm going to try use the double trouble, different move effect, maybe that, and then maybe that on the side one. Yeah, I'm going to play
maybe that, because we've got people that are listening to it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know. I keep forgetting that. It's because I see you before me, Matty, and I forget these things. It doesn't take a lot to get me confused.
Would that help?
Yeah. What?
Do you want me to turn my picture off? Would that help?
No, not at all. Because then I'd be like talking to an answer phone. So no, I'm gonna have a little play with like having two lights going up and down, and then two lights going like round and round in circles, or left and right, or whatever. And I'll be able to do that because I won't have to worry about what next song's coming on because I've got basically 3 hours to play.
Lovely.
So yeah, looking forward to that. That's Saturday. What about you? Apart from Friday, obviously we're going together.
And then Saturday, I'm heading up to Chester, up in the northwest. That's a long old trek up to Chester for a 90s silent disco up there with Archie and Sophie Lou, and then getting ready for holiday.
Ollie Bob's.
Holiday where you've already told me at the start of this podcast that it's going to rain for 3 days. And
I just put a little bit of a wager. I've gone safe though, 50%. You're going to have 3 days of rain.
Poor. Anyway, I love talking to you tonight. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Thank you to everyone that has continued to support the Groove Junction. We love you dearly. Oh, John's got his hand up. Means he's got a question, everyone.
Very, very quickly, we have been talking about the Pro Mobile conference that's going on next year.
Yes.
Monday of this week, they made the tickets live on their website.
They have indeed.
Definitely check that one out if you are interested in going. We'll be there.
Tickets are live. We will be talking about Pro Mobile Conference, no doubt, as the weeks continue, and obviously into the beginning of the new year. But yes, John is correct. The tickets are now live on the website, which was very highly publicized on our last podcast.
Absolutely.
Go check out episode 40, get all the details from episode 40, where you can get onto the conference website and purchase one of those 70 tickets that are at that reduced price before they go up to the actual
standard
ticket
price.
Yeah, the standard price. So yeah, go and do that. Pro Mobile Conference, March 2026. Check that out. But yes, thanks for dropping on, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thank you for your continued support. We love talking. John loves listening. And we will see you same time, same place next week.